Hello everyone and welcome to Sunburned Albino rates the top 10 familiars in the Binding of Isaac Rebirth. As always, this list will not include items that were in the original game, but there may be a couple in the bonus section of this video that get some attention. Let's get started. Oh, also Dark Bum will not be present in this list either, because that would just take all the fun out of guessing the number 1 spot. Ooh, plot twists. Number 10, Little Haunt. You can think of Little Haunt as a reskinned dead bird with ever so slightly better AI that doesn't require you to get hit to activate it and can also cause fear. It might not be the most clever ghost in the basement, but once it gets in there and starts developing a smooth chase rhythm, the damage it does can be quite noticeable. Any enemies that would otherwise think to physically come after you would find themselves hightailing it in the other direction from the intimidating fear possessed by this little possessor. They'll become more interested in running into walls than trying to kill a toddler, and that's good news for most people. Number 9, Triple Q's only friend. There is one instance in where question mark's only friend is a 100% positively objective and arguably inescapable damage upgrade, and that's when you already have Ludovico technique. Get that? And that big blue fly will only be useful, going wherever your tier goes. Outside of that, it's situational. If your tiers are weak, Triple Q's only friend might be the best damage dealer you've got, and so you'd want to focus solely on it. If your tiers are adequate enough, however, it really just gets in the way and becomes lost in the back of your mind. It can be good for getting enemies in hard-to-reach places, or to safely dole some doom out while flying over the safety of rocks, but although I do like the item and its premise, it's just too particular to be higher up on this list. Still pretty good, though. Number 8, Mongo Baby. Mongo Baby by itself does some pretty surprising damage for what seems like a regular old shooter familiar, but its hidden ability is that it copies the tiers of another familiar you already have. This works best in conjunction with something like Rotten Baby to deliver double the dose of flies. Out of all the bullet-shooting familiars, Mongo Baby has the highest base damage per tier, even if something like Demon Baby can shoot more rapidly. Also, it's called Mongo Baby, which is short for Mongoloid, which if you're unfamiliar, essentially means retarded, and that makes me giggle. Number 7, Big Fan. I'm a big fan of Big Fan. Hold on, I'm getting a call. Hello? Yeah, this is him? Oh my god. Are you serious? Really? Holy shit-faced. Yeah, I'll do it. Okay, bye. Comedy Central just offered me a half-hour special. I mean, I knew my jokes were great, but anyway, back to the video. Ella, shut up. That's my dog. Big Fan's a good item. It spawns a fat fly that orbits very slowly around you, and let me tell you, it's fat. It's like a fat fuck fly. It's my favorite new orbital. The reason it's not higher up on the list is because the contact damage it does is not great, probably a little less even than Forever Alone. But if you're asking whether it'll block shots, oh, it'll block shots. Number 6, Rotten Baby. Rotten Baby is just a better mulligan. Its output of attack flies is steady and consistent, and quick too. You can only have one fly active at a time, but once that one hits, the next comes rushing forth. I use the mulligan, and it spawns me 2 flies per floor. Sorry, mulligan, you're being kicked to the curb in favor of some fresh new talent. I'm sure you'll find a job somewhere else. Maybe you could be the sad old man that works at Subway whose life circumstances make everyone depressed. Number 5, Isaac's Heart. Isaac's Heart is probably the most divisive item in Rebirth, because its pros are very pro and its cons are extremely con. If you want to take this item, you have to seriously evaluate your run situation first. Isaac's Heart has many nifty uses, but a major drawback, and at some point I should probably explain what the hell this item does. What it does is it spawns a familiar that looks exactly like the child's heart trinket behind Isaac that follows him around as any other familiar would. Isaac only takes damage when the heart familiar is hit with an attack. Isaac taking damage to his own body does nothing. Now, that may sound terrific, but the Isaac's Heart familiar is designed to be a real struggle to try to manipulate since you don't have direct control over it, which leads to a bunch of bullshit hits. That's really the only con, but it's a huge con. The pros are that Isaac's body is invincible, so you can freely put things like Poison Touch and other contact items to good use with little risk, unless the enemy is big enough to hit the heart that lags behind you. Another plus is that you can play Blood Banks infinitely, taking no damage. You can enter Curse Rooms for free. If you get this item in a co-op run, it straight up just makes player 2 permanently invincible. So it has its benefits, but you have to decide whether or not it's all worth it. Number 4, Smart Fly. Smart Fly is the definition of temperamental. At first, it orbits around you like a golden pretty fly, doing minimal contact damage and being a big risk to try to inflict orbital attacks with due to its small size. But once you get hit, you better watch out. And by you, I mean the enemies. They won't know what they set off. Smart Fly has the best familiar AI in the game, actively seeking out targets across the room to pester until they die. And it does a steady stream of high-level damage. Leave the room and it goes back to being a pretty fly. So the main drawback of this item is that you have to get hit to invoke the wrath of the golden godfly, but when you do, just sit back and watch the chaos unfold. Number 3, Guillotine. Don't like it? Too bad. I do. Guillotine gives you the biggest, fattest orbital of them all. Your own goddamn head. Sure, it's disorienting. So is anything that makes you see what you're doing differently. Step up to the challenge. Master it. Don't complain. You fire tears from your orbiting head as your body becomes your center of balance. The head cannot take damage. It can only dish it out. Think of it as a bigger cube of meat with about the same contact damage that also shoots your tears. Keep your head between you and your enemy, and you will not get hit ever. Number 2. Dry Baby. Ella, I swear to God, if you don't shut up. Dry Baby is a familiar that follows you around, much like other familiars, only it doesn't shoot. It blocks shots, and when it gets hit, it has the chance to utilize the Necronomicon effect and vaporize everything in the room. In the hands of a capable finesser at weaving between danger, Dry Baby will activate all the damn time, and your enemies won't know it until they're dead. And now, number 1. What could it possibly be that isn't Dark Bum? The answer is... Ball of Bandages. Now, before you throw your computers out the window, recognize that I'm totally right. 1 ball of bandages is a solid orbital that does solid damage when used properly. 2 ball of bandages adds charm tears to the mix, a potent effect. 3 ball of bandages creates a walking bandage girl that goes after enemies doing contact damage and still shooting charm cheers. That's seductive whore. I said charm cheers. I meant charm tears. 4 ball of bandages, bandage girl puts on a few pounds and becomes truly a force to be reckoned with, significantly increasing the damage she can deal. 4th level bandage girl wins you the game, hands down, every time. Who cares how hard it is to get? That does not diminish the usefulness it presents when it is present, and it really is a present. It's time for our honorable mentions category. Here are our honorable mentions. Gemini. Gemini has very limited reach, but homes in quite quickly on enemies that get close enough to you. It might seem a bit dangerous to rely on Gemini and use him effectively, but as long as you move with the enemy that's chasing you, you're in no danger of getting hit. And throughout your run, Gemini will do a good amount of contact damage to enemies in its attack radius without you ever even meaning it to. The reason it wasn't on the list is because I just don't really like it. It looks ugly, and as with Mom's lipstick, I just feel gross after taking it. Simple as that. BBF. Big Beautiful Fly is similar to a Big Beautiful Woman. It wanders around in loneliness and explodes on contact. Then about 10 seconds later, it's ready for more. It's basically a floating bomb waiting to go off on any poor soul that gets in the way, and if you find yourself in its path, you best get out the way or be collateral damage in its suicidal endeavors. Some will say it's worth keeping around because of the good times it can bring. Some will say it's not worth it and you should find something safer and thinner. But there's no question of what it brings to the table, and you can decide for yourself whether it's your type. But you know the thing about chubby chasers, they don't have to run very fast. Bob's Brain. Easily one of the most infamous items in Rebirth. Everyone wants to know what everyone thinks about Bob's Brain. The cop-out answer would be to say it's situational. So that's what I'm going with. Bob's Brain is something you should take under the following circumstances. You have very bad damage. You have a charge-up item like Brimstone or Monster's Lung that could benefit from being able to tap shoot an exploding brain at a guy. You have Ipecac, but not Dr. Fetus. If you have it with Dr. Fetus, the Bob's Brain shot will blow back the Dr. Fetus bomb you shoot and make it explode in your damn face. You have BFF, and consider the extra damage worth the risks. You should not take Bob's Brain if your damage is already solid. If Bob's Brain were more of a glorified Bob's Rotten Head, it would be much better, but it only explodes when it touches an enemy, so you can't use it except very cleverly to find secret rooms or blow up rocks. My jury is out on this one, as it being mostly bad, except sometimes maybe not so bad. I have to give a special shout out to 2 familiar orbitals from the original Binding of Isaac that I have a newfound appreciation for. It's mostly nothing that Rebirth did differently, besides featuring them in certain challenge runs, but I very, very much like these 2 items a lot more than I used to now. Sacrificial Dagger. I always used to like getting Sacrificial Dagger, even though I knew I would never use it effectively. In that sense, it was kind of a waste. But that one Eve challenge that starts you with it, among other things, really let it shine for me, and now I make a huge effort to use it as often as possible, and to great effect because it's so strong in the right hands, and my hands are the right hands. Sacrificial Dagger didn't block shots in the original game, but it does now, which means if you use its revolutions correctly, you can take 2/3 of Isaac and Blue Baby's health for free with no risk of damage. It's the epitome of a risk-reward system, and I always look forward to it showing up as much as possible. Distant Admiration. For those who get them confused, like I used to, Distant Admiration is the red attack fly that orbits closer than Forever Alone, the blue attack fly. It seems like it being closer would count as a negative thing, but I find that it's much easier to maneuver and use than Forever Alone ever was. Also, it does about twice the damage. If you get Distant Admiration on the first floor, you're not going to need to shoot tears for at least the next 3. It is more than capable of destroying everything in a room, bosses included. You'll require some expertise and finesse, but if you've got it, you'll feel like you're a god of the game. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. If you disagree with any of the points or lists I made, feel free to yell at me in the comments below. I'll be working up some top 10 worst item lists in the coming days, which are sure to be hilarious. Until then, I'll see you then.